All right, gamers, so it might be a little bit awkward with my face cam being in the top left corner here, but I'm actually blocking the face cam of the streamer himself. This guy is Quinn. He's a big time streamer. He's been playing like Path of Exile, Lost Ark. He's done it all, right? Like, he plays these types of RPGs, and he was at Blizzcon among a bunch of other streamers that ended up actually getting access to play the game for a total of 2 hours. We're just gonna mute him because unfortunately they didn't have the game sound working or anything like that, but here is the Druid gameplay. Oh my goodness gracious. Apparently people were able to actually play this at BlizzCon. Like, they did end up having a booth for it as well. And you can see it just looks so much darker than the other games, even all of the gear and stuff like that. And the Druid just looks so cool because you see right there, your normal melee attack as the Druid turns you seamlessly into a werewolf. And you're just going to end up staying in werewolf form until you end up like stop attacking and standing around for a little while. Same with your right click, it's going to end up turning you into the werebear that we mentioned previously. So I'm kind of skipping through a lot of the video here just because, you know, he's kind of trying to end up figuring out the volume levels and stuff like that. But one thing that's really cool is that we actually have a dash ability in this game, and it seems like it's spammable. Maybe they'll put it on a cooldown later on. You know, the game obviously is very early in development, even though it actually looks like it's really well developed. But that dodge ability is insane for Diablo. They actually have that in Lost Ark, and it actually is on a cooldown. It's very cool, though. It's kind of the same as something like Dark Souls or Trove, where you end up doing this dodge, and then you can end up negating damage for a time. Now, this right here I think is awesome because this is actually a cutscene that is in game and using your class that you ended up choosing. So as you end up picking your character, as of right now with this build of the game, the characters are going to be gender locked. So the barbarian is stuck as a male, but you'll be able to choose a couple different haircuts and stuff like that, which I actually do hope they keep that. I hope that it's not just because it's an early build, because I like the idea that classes will be gender locked, because like the sorcerer just makes sense to end up being female. It doesn't really make sense to end up being a male like they ended up having in Diablo 3. But here, this right here is really epic, guys. This is one of my favorite things in gaming, where the first dungeon that you go through in the tutorial actually more so acts like think of it like a sewer or something like that. It acts like a traditional Diablo dungeon. And then once you get through with that tutorial, bam, here you are, and this is the open world. It is actually like an open world type of game. Now, that said, the world is, you know, I don't know how random it's going to generate and stuff like that, but when we end up, when this character ends up looking at the map a little bit later, it looks insanely huge. This obviously is still the starting zone, so things are going to end up changing as the full release ends up coming with the game, obviously. But I still would expect it to be something like that, where maybe you are stuck in one small area, and then the areas grow bigger and bigger the further you end up getting into the game. But the fact of the matter is that it is still an open world map, even though it's not like necessarily gigantic. Like you see on the mini map in the top right, he can't walk over the rocks and stuff like that. But there is still a lot to explore in this area around. Like, there's a couple dungeons to end up doing, a couple quests and bounties to end up doing. And I don't know why this streamer just loves going on his map over and over. But see right there, look how huge that world is. That is insane, dude. That's why they ended up showing that there are maps. I don't know why I did that in quotes. That's why we saw that there was maps in the trailer. Or mounts in the trailer when the characters were on horses. It makes sense because some of the later areas are probably going to end up being quite big. You're going to need something like that. Of course, you can always still do the traditional warping to town so that you can end up, you know, doing some stuff. But let's skip in a little bit here, try to end up getting to a little bit more of the dungeon crawling. So here we actually get to see a lot of the different skill abilities. So it seems like you actually get to invest certain amounts of points into each of these, which is really cool and a big change from Diablo 3. Where these are going to basically be like all of these abilities at the top row are going to be your basic attack. Second ones are going to end up being your secondary, so on and so forth. And then you'll end up having like an alternate alt ability and a passive ability and stuff. But there is also a different skill tree as well. So this is the skills, but then there's also talents. And talents, near as I can tell, is going to end up being passive buffs towards a specific type of build that you want to play in the game, which I think is awesome. You know, the biggest thing that I really love about what I've seen with the gameplay and just with the gear and stuff like that, maybe it's just because it's an early build in the game, but it seems like it's very straightforward and to the point. There's like attack, defense, and that's pretty much it. It could just be that it's an early build. Obviously, later on, we'll more than likely have elemental damage and stuff like that. But I think that it would actually be a lot nicer if they just did away with a lot of that stuff, made the game a lot more simpler and more accessible. But at the same time, obviously, it's going to end up being a very complicated game, because the thing that I didn't like so much about Diablo 3 is once you ended up getting to the end game, you pretty much were very limited to the abilities and builds that you can end up using effectively in some of the later tiered dungeons. And it seems like they're going to take a lot of their experiences from Diablo 3 and a lot of the criticisms that people have had with the game as well. Now, another thing too that was really cool, you see in the background right here, that's actually another player just seamlessly exploring the map. He doesn't show up on this guy's mini map or anything like that. There is apparently a button where you can invite random people that you see out in the world. So I just think that that's awesome. There is confirmed going to end up being an option to play this game absolutely solo or just with your friends and stuff like that. I'm assuming it's going to end up being an option where you set it to public games or not. But I think that could be fantastic, because I've also heard that certain later missions, or maybe it's raids or something more difficult, there's going to be instances where you can have a total of like 8 or 10 players or something like that, which I think is insane. I think that's absolutely awesome. And another thing too that could be because of this build is you see next to the enemy names, it actually shows their level. So enemies in the open world are going to end up having predefined levels based on their location. So you might go to a certain area and the enemies are just outright way too powerful for you to handle, because it's going to end up being more of an open world type of game, and it's trying to promote exploration while also giving challenge. Because in previous Diablo games, what would happen is just based on how powerful you were, the world would end up expanding and growing more powerful around you. And then once you ended up getting to a certain point, you would obviously have to go to a higher difficulty, and then you would end up getting higher and better gear and stuff like that. But oh my goodness gracious, he's already playing seamlessly with a sorcerer right here, and you can just see like it. This video does not do it justice, guys. The game looks gorgeous. Like, even though it's just an isometric game like this, and I know tons of people are saying here probably saying this looks like Path of Exile, but you gotta consider this, guys. Path of Exile is a game that actually ripped off Diablo 2. Now, Diablo 2 is really old. It's a really old school game, and Blizzcon is going on right now, so I'm still, fingers crossed, really hoping that they just suddenly announce, oh, by the way, Diablo 2 Remastered is out, or something like that. That would be awesome. Might even happen by the time this video comes out. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I just think that that would be awesome, because I've been craving playing through Diablo 2, but the graphics in the game itself are just so super duper old that it's like, I want to mess with it, if there's going to end up being a remake. So he's trying to mess with the social settings, and they're trying to get the audio settings so you can see all the different graphics. Sharpen image is just right there and looks fantastic for settings. Like, I want to be able to crank the graphics, man. I want to make it look even better. That said, this is probably the best you can get it to look, honestly. And all the traditional abilities of the Druid are back from Diablo 2, so I'm just super duper hyped about that. There's a point where there's this Hydra coming out of the ground, right? And that's actually based off of the legendary ring that he picked up. And apparently what they're going to be doing with this game is there's items that you can get that are called set items. And in old Diablo, those set items could end up being extremely powerful because you could combine them with another set item. So let's just say there is a let's just call it an ice helmet, right? And then there would be an ice bodysuit, an ice legs, ice pants. And as you would end up getting more and more pieces of this set, you would end up getting different benefits. So it's like you have to have 2 of these equipped in order to end up getting this benefit of the equipment, so on and so forth. Legendary items apparently are supposed to be way more powerful than that, which is awesome, because that's more so what old Diablo was. And this right here, check this out. This is so cool, dude. I love this. So he's in a cave right now, and he's on level 1 in the Drowning Caverns, and now he's in level 2. That's so seamless and so awesome. Like, it really seems like they're stepping up the production of just the way things animate, the fluidity of the game. Even the fact that your health bar is in the bottom left and a lot smaller. It's just got your set abilities, left and right mouse button abilities 1, 2, 3, and 4. You got your health, you got your town portal, you got your potions, and you got your mana. So the different characters are going to end up generating their own different types of pool of mana. So there's going to be a character that will, say the barbarian, for example, you generate rage based on fighting enemies and the damage that you do to them, and then you can end up using more of your ability. So it promotes a very aggressive style of play, as opposed to the druid, where I'm seeing that he seems to be generating mana as he's using certain abilities. And oh man, the wind ability, the wind gust as well. Oh geez, that looks so epic. And it seems like he triggered some type of a crazy ult where it's actually triggering lightning at the same time. So that might end up being like a side ability with it. So let's actually skip a little bit more ways in here. See if we can end up getting some more here. Okay, so he just ended up restarting his file. And now he's actually on a time limit. So you can see in the bottom right of this video, he's actually got a limited amount of time to end up playing on a character. But this is something I really wanted to show you guys, because now he's actually heading into a higher difficulty zone, because his character in the bottom left, you can actually see is level 20. It seems like it's a pre-made build of the game specifically for people to play, where you get to mess around with the classes and stuff like that. But now he's going into an area where the enemies are level 24. So they're becoming a lot more powerful and a lot more difficult to deal with. Another thing too that's really, really cool is you just seem to have an infinite amount of potions that you can buy again, which that was something that they removed in Diablo 3. In Diablo 3, you just had a set amount of potions. The potions obviously are probably going to end up being on a cooldown, or maybe you can potion spam. That'd be fun if that was brought back. The way that the potions work, though, is rather than it just instantaneously healing you, instead it just heals you over time and slowly heals your health bar up. So you do gotta be really careful when you're going into more deadly areas and stuff. And it just, I have nothing but good things to say about this, guys. Like, I am seriously excited about this. I really, really hope that they end up releasing a remastered Diablo 2, just because apparently this game is a long time away. Even though it looks really, really tight right now, it's going to take them quite a while to end up actually releasing this game. And on top of that, the reason why I think Diablo 2 remastered would be perfect is because it could bring old fans in and bring new fans in to get hype for Diablo 4, especially because a lot of the characters and a lot of the design of Diablo 4 seems to be very, very reminiscent of Diablo 2, which Diablo 2, as far as fans are concerned, was pretty much the best Diablo. Diablo 3 was great, and I even really enjoyed it, especially when it first came out. It pretty much blasted, Diablo into the mainstream for gaming. I remember even just seeing random people that obviously didn't play many video games, and they even knew what Diablo was because the game was pushed so hard. And it was just really, really cool to end up having that happen with society. And that said, Diablo 2 was a more hardcore type of game that was darker and more drab, like it is right now in this game right here. So he's kind of end up messing around in here, but let's skip a little bit ahead, because he still had a limited amount of time to end up streaming the game, on top of the limited amount of time that you have to play each class. So now he's actually swapped over to the sorcerer, and the sorcerer's gameplay looks like just so fun. Like even the meteor right there, that is so Diablo 2. He's actually using an ultimate ability right now where he's turned into some sort of a lightning being, which honestly, that kind of reminds me of Plants vs. Zombies, which if you guys have played the more recent one, you'll know what I mean. One of the zombies has a legit ability like that. So you can see now that he's playing as a mage, his magic is just completely filled, because the way that it generates is just over time. That's one of the things that they ended up doing in Diablo 3, which I think is awesome, is that the characters are going to all end up having different mana pools, so they all feel very distinct in their playstyle, and it kind of promotes playing a very specific way. Again, to reiterate the fact that the barbarian ends up building his mana based on combat, so it promotes you to be an aggressive player. And the thing that I absolutely love about Blizzard, and have always loved about them, is these guys know how to get it done when it comes to the visuals. Because even though you actually saw right there, during all of this big crazy combat situation, even though there is a lot of stuff that's going on and being thrown at the player, you very, very easily, because of their fantastic color coding, and just the portraits and the silhouettes of the enemies and stuff like that, all of this stuff is stuff that Blizzard considers when they make their games, so that the player has a lot less is required of the player in order to calculate and figure out what exactly is going on and what's the best course of action. I remember watching like some documentaries of like how Blizzard was developing certain games and stuff, and even a game like Overwatch, you see like each of the different characters are very visually distinct from one another. So and they do that on purpose, not only to stylize the game, but so that somebody who's in the distance instantly knows that's a Tracer, that's a Reinhardt and stuff like that. And they take all of that into Diablo as well, where you can know instantly the threat level that you're facing. And that is fantastic in a game like this. It's just, I have nothing but good things to say. I am extremely excited about this, even though it's going to end up taking a super long time for it to end up coming out. Now, again, like I said at the beginning of the video, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I am a longtime fan of Blizzard and a fan of Diablo in general. And on top of that, I also wanted to talk about this so that you guys could kind of understand the origin of these types of, they call them an isometric viewpoint RPG, right? Like it's a dungeon crawler through and through. You're going for gear. And I wanted to talk about this because I do actually have a special video that I've been wanting to make on Minecraft Dungeons, because Minecraft Dungeons is coming out March 2020, I think. And that's going to end up being a game very much like this, but with Minecraft style graphics. So I think that's going to be a really fun one that we're going to definitely play on the channel, even though when Diablo 4 comes out, I'm going to love it. I'm going to play it regardless of if anybody even watches that series. I don't really care, because this is a game that is true to my heart. I absolutely love it, and I'm super duper excited that they not only talked about it, but they actually showed us some gameplay. Thanks for watching though, folks. Smash like, sub for more. Have yourselves a great day. Again, this footage was from Quinn on Twitch, and I mean, as far as I know, he's like fantastic and is like one of the top guys for these types of games. So now he's actually playing as the Barbarian, which he's just going to end up being more so of a brute character, but it still does look like an absolute blast. I hope we get a demo of this game, dude. Like, that would be so great. Like, ugh. Smash like, sub for more. Have yourselves a great day. Buy the merch you want to support the channel. Sign on and stay epic, gamers.